It's recording. You never touch it again. And then when she moves, you move with her and move that way with her. See if you move. Let's zoom in a little bit more. Okay, she's managing attention, communicating respect, finding friendly eyes near the front and the center. Say your name, filled with love. Start your speech.
Hi, I'm Angela.
Hi, Angela.
Nice start.
Yes.
Okay. Whenever I'm at the airport, I tend to get intimidated by all the bureaucratic paperwork and the policemen with their huge dogs and sunglasses on with their shotguns. But actually, there was a guy who was actually forced to leave at the airport over 9 months. His name is Victor Navorsky from a movie entitled The Terminal. A writer and a film music enthusiast, John Takis, commented on the movie that light, breezy, lengthy, fairly inconsequential. Talking about the inconsequentiality, I actually disagree with him. All the details involved in the movie actually added up to convey all the major themes like love, patriotism, and great positivity of life. And I could easily relate myself with all the themes, with all my life experiences. And today, I would like to introduce you guys a movie that really moved me, The Terminal. The major themes like love, patriotism, and great positivity actually moved me in 3 ways. It made me to feel confused, sad, and sentimental. The first way the movie moved me was, it made me to feel really confused. It was when Victor was asked by the director of the airport, if he's scared to go back to his country, where the war was still ongoing. He was actually held at the airport due to the outbreak of civil war back in his country, but he never complained toward the fact that he had to stay in the airport for so long, nor he had to suffer by looking for food and job over there. However, he was keep on showing the great patriotism toward his country, and it made me. I was impressed by his great patriotism. And then it also made me too confused by asking myself where my real home country is. Born in the States, lived in Australia for 4 years, lived in Korea for 8 years, lived in the Philippines for 8 years, and now I'm back to the States. So I'm a very international student that sometimes I get confused, it's hard for me to identify where really I'm from. So seeing the great patriotism of Victor made me to question myself where really I'm from. And then the second way the movie moved me was, it made me to feel sad. It was when Victor realized he has to let Amelia go from his life, when she decided to go back to her ex-boyfriend. Victor really struggled in the first place. However, he realized that he has to learn how to let her go from his life, and he has to wish her good luck for the decision she made. And the part really made me to feel sad by reminding me of my Uncle Juan, who died of brain tumor when I was 13. He was a great friend and great uncle who was always there for me when the help was needed. It was really hard for me to accept that I will not be able to see him anymore, and I have to let him go. Seeing Victor struggling let Amelia go from his life actually reminded me of my uncle, and it made me to feel sad. The last way the movie moved me was, it made me to feel sentimental. It was when I was seeing the life of Victor at the airport, which was full of waiting. He had to wait for his job, food, love with Amelia, and then he also had to wait for the war back in his country to be over. And just like that, he waited for 9 months at the airport. It reminded me of my life back in the Philippines, where I lived with my mom and my sister. My father has to live in Korea by himself because of his business. And whenever he visited us the Philippines, my mom, my sister, and I waited in front of the arrival lane in the airport, looking at the people to come out. And then we wait, and wait. And I always wait for the moment to come when our family as a whole can live together. And then seeing Victor waiting actually reminded me of my father, so it made me sentimental. So in summary, the themes cover like great positivity, love, and patriotism really moved me. And in this room, there should be no doubt that this movie has moved me. And then those themes actually directly establish the emotional connection with my experiences. Therefore, seeing Victor dealing with all his hardship taught me how to deal with the adversities of life with a big smile. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, you can't escape yet. Your time was 5:13.
Whoa.
Yes, please.
Alright, I'm Josh, everybody.
Hi, Josh.
One particular thing that stood out was the pace. I really liked the pace. Made it really understand, helped us absorb your ideas and your emotions. And also going through your emotional connections, I really did feel that emotional connection. You went really in depth of what you were feeling, and especially in the second and third body paragraphs. And I felt like I was there. And I did feel some emotional connection.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Improvement.
Hi everyone, my name is Miriam.
Hi, Miriam.
So I like your speech. I also thought that the piece was really good. And I would say for improvement, you did move 3 times, which was great, but you kind of forgot your other children in the back. So I would say just try to move, but then just look back so you could give them love.
Thank you.
Angela, let's start with that. You faced too much this way, too much that way, and excluded some of your children, to continue the metaphor. So I liked your movement and glancing over and working a side of the room. You did that nicely, but don't exclude that other side, okay? You did the terminal, didn't get rave reviews. You disagreed with the reviewer, which was fine. Interesting movie choice, but I see, given all your travels and movements around the planet, that this might be one you would choose. So that was fine. Your thesis preview was satisfactory. Your first emotion was confused, and you talked about living in many countries. I wish, you came back saying I didn't really know where my real home was. I wish we would have a little bit more on why you were confused, or what was am I an American? What am I? Where is my nationality? Where's my allegiance? I wish you had spent a little bit more time on your confusion. On your second story, on your uncle, I thought that was your best story. I got the most emotions out of it. I felt your sadness of him dying of a brain tumor, and your feeling of his loss, so that was good. You communicated that emotion well. You had a tendency, and you'll see this tonight, zoom in just a little tighter on there. You'll see this tonight when you watch this on YouTube, that you tend to put your hands together an awful lot like that, and you'll want to let them be out like this and be gesturing more. On your third emotions, sentimental. I got it, but it was awkward the way you communicated. You said you waited and waited and waited at the gate, and then he finally came, I guess, through the gate, and then you saw him. I didn't get how that made you feel sentimental, but return to the emotion at the end of the emotion you're communicating. I would say overall you did a nice job. A little bit more practice and there'll be a more fluency in your delivery. There was just kind of a roughness in your presentation that will come with more practice. But overall you did a very nice job, and you did it in time within 2 seconds to spare. So thank you. Good job. Is this the last B?
No, it's not.
What?
Oh, yeah, I'm the first C.
Oh, wait, was there another B? Isabel Rossellini? Is there an Isabel?
I'm Isabel, but I went yesterday.
So we did.
Not Rosalina. So.
No, I know that was a joke, but yeah. But you've already gone, right? Okay. So we're on C's now. Okay, great. Okay, rock and roll. Okay, they're talking. She's writing.
Hi everyone, my name is Miriam Lavieska.
Hi, Miriam.
I never thought I would like a foreign movie. I never thought that I would love a random Netflix suggestion. When I began seeing this new movie, its name was Guzarish. And basically this movie is Hindi language and it deals with the topic of life and suicide as well as understanding hard situations in our life. As Jennifer Hancock states, Guzarish doesn't sugarcoat the topic of suicide, nor does it impose its opinion on you. It is very emotional, and it will make you cry, and that is a good thing. And I absolutely agree with her. I will tell you 3 instances that moved me, and also how it made me feel. And those are, it made me sad, it made me angry, and finally it made me happy. The first feeling that I felt while watching this movie was sadness. Now from the beginning of the film, we find that the main character, whose name is Ethan, suffers a horrible accident which causes him to be paralyzed from the neck down. Because of his helplessness, it reminded me of a time in my life where I was sad because I couldn't change my situation. Just like how he was, I felt helpless. For example, during 2008, during the recession, my parents were having really hard economic times, and I knew that they were really upset and that they didn't know where our next paycheck was going to come from. I felt helpless, just like Ethan, because I couldn't do anything to help my parents. And that is why I was so sad, because just like him, I felt the inability to be able to do something and actually change your situation. The second feeling that I felt was sadness. Anger, was anger. Now this happened in the middle of the film when we finally find out how Ethan became paralyzed. During the film, he states that his best friend, he made this whole plan that made him fall from a really high altitude and eventually hit his neck and be paralyzed. I was really angry at this because at this point I knew that Ethan was a good man, he was charitable, and he was kind. That is why I was angry, because I couldn't contemplate how this happened to such a good person. And it reminded me of a time in my life where I found out that my mother was diagnosed with a chronic renal failure, and I was really angry. And I know it sounds a little selfish, but at the time I was angry because I couldn't contemplate the idea of why something so sad had happened to someone so dear to me, and why it had happened to people that were actually really good. That is why when I saw this scene and when I finally found out what happened to him, I was really angry because just like my mother, Ethan suffered from something that he had no control over. Now my final emotion was happiness, and this was the best feeling in the world because it reconciled my previous thoughts. After feeling 2 negative thoughts about this movie, I finally felt happy and was able to understand what the theme of the movie was. And this happened at the end of the movie when Ethan is on his deathbed and he's surrounded by his loved ones. And basically, although he knows he is about to die, he understands and he still advocates for the beauty in life, and that in difficulties there is so much growth and happiness which you can gain out of. And I applied this to my life because if it wouldn't have been for my mother's disease, or if it wouldn't have been for other obstacles that I had throughout my lifetime, I would have been unable to be here where I am today. I would not be the same person that I am And that is why at the end of the movie, I was so happy. I was so happy because I was able to find closure in a movie that also found closure in itself. And there should be no doubt in this room that this movie moved me. And in conclusion, I have told you 3 different ways in which it moved me, which transitioned from me being sad to angry to happy. And as Jennifer Hancock has stated, I did cry 3 times. I cried out of sadness, I cried out of anger, and I cried out of happiness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen.
Hi, Karen.
So, Miriam, I thought that your speech was really good. It was very structured, and I could really see the connection between your emotion and your story very well. So I really liked that. And then you were able to tie back and have a really great conclusion.
Improvement.
Hi, I'm Tiffany.
Hi, Tiffany.
Hi, Tiffany.
Yeah, I really liked your speech too, I guess. I think the way you moved around the room was good, but I think in between you also had like little movements and like kind of like shifting your weight. That could have been distracting, but other than that, it was pretty good. Thank you.
Yeah, you'll see when you watch yourself tonight, you're doing a bit of swaying. It's distracting. So see if you can get a little more body awareness, see what your body's doing while you're speaking. Would be good. Well, I enjoyed your speech. Initially, Miriam, your introduction didn't really do what I felt an introduction should do. You said, I didn't expect I would like a foreign movie so much. I didn't expect I would love this random Netflix suggestion so much. It was kind of a negative. I was surprised. And I try next time a poem, a quote, a story, a rhetorical question, something else, a joke even, something that will really grab your audience. You did tie back to your quote though, and so you were working the concept, so that was fine. Let's talk about the emotions that you communicated and how well you did it, which is the crux of the assignment. On sadness, I felt your first one of talking about your feeling of sadness and impotence and not being able to help your family that was struggling financially was pretty good, and I like the way you returned to the emotion at the end of the paragraph. I'm glad people are doing that and returning to the emotion at the end of the set. On the second emotion of anger, you shared the idea that your mother has chronic kidney failure and you're not happy about that. I would have liked you to have summoned up more of the feeling of the anger and the frustration that you felt when you learned of this, and why her and why now and why me and why is this affecting our family, and and so that we really get that anger coming through. But you did return to the emotion at the end of it. So my suggestion is just anger is a nice one that you can really pump out if you can really recreate it. On your third emotion of happiness, that was well done. And I thought that you gave us kind of a happy ending to a lot of the problems that you had talked about earlier, and they got resolved, and so that was good. And you talked about, and you integrated it back into the character of the film, and so that was well done. When you watch yourself now, you're going to see the summary, the conclusion, and the tie back was all kind of, interestingly moved around and stuff, but you got it all done ultimately, and so that was good. Cried, sadness, anger, and happiness, that was fine. You said move 3 times, better word economy, and better organization. How'd it go?
I didn't go over time, did I?
No,
Okay.
I didn't start the timer, I forgot, so you were perfectly within time.
Well, I didn't go too long because last time I did do it a little too long, but I felt thought that was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And I mean, I tried moving, so that was good.
Yeah.
And I forgot what the last one was.
Better organization.
Yeah, I felt like that was much better.
Yeah, the word economy, I think, is something you can still work on and go through and try to eliminate unnecessary words in your script and practice just getting really to the point. And sometimes that helps by having your heads that you know what your central point is and really stressing that. And that's why, like, when I'm communicating anger, all my words have to add up to me communicating the emotion of anger, and that's all I'm trying to do. That's my strategy, that's my goal, that's my tactic, anger. That's what I'm after. So overall, you did a nice job. Thank you. Good, thank you. So we're missing a few people, huh? Blake? No Blake? No Shelby? No Angela?
I'm right here. I went yesterday.
No, I'm talking about the roll sheet. Did everyone sign the roll sheet?
This one.
We have a confusion. I started a different kind now. Here.
I thought it signed.
One sign in my spot.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, on with. Okay, let's move on. The clock, my battery is running down. Okay, we're going to now go to Natalie. We lost Natalie. Oh no. Okay, that'll bring us to Tessa.
Right here.
We lost Tessa. Worried there. Okay, Tessa. Good. Good.
Hi, I'm Tess.
Hi, Tess.
Okay. I grew up surrounded by children. I've babysat, full-time nannied, worked at camps all my life, and I love it. So when I first thought about what my favorite film was, I immediately thought Disney. And I know a lot of people have talked about Disney films so far, but I just wanted to add that I think that the true magic behind these films is not that they have the most beautiful or inspiring characters, which they do, or the most perfect fairy tale endings, but that they have the ability to appeal to such a wide audience, and that they're able to trigger such a variety of emotional responses from the audience. I chose the movie Tarzan because I found myself making deep emotional connections with the characters at age 18, and I thought that was something really special. Richard Corliss said that Tarzan is the full-service romance and adventure, laugh and cry movie that Disney and its competitors have been trying to make since The Lion King, and I could not agree more. I know that a lot of people try to blow off kids' movies as if they're trivial or insignificant, but I know that my 3 stories will show all of you that kids' movies can be just as moving as adult movies. I'll start off by telling you how this movie made me feel proud. I felt proud when I saw Kala, Tarzan's mother, take him in as a baby and accept him for who he was and raise him as her own, even though he looked a little bit different from what the community of gorillas were used to. This made me feel proud because it reminded me of my mom. My mom's been a dedicated special education teacher for 30 years. And she's the kind of teacher who wants to make a difference in her kids' lives, not so that they just succeed in school, but so that they succeed in life. And a lot of the times her students came from families who didn't come from much, so this would just drive her even further to spend all of her time and energy into making a difference in their lives and making sure that they succeed among the other students.
Tell us more why you're proud.
So I remember she used to come into my room when I was younger, and she used to look through my clothes and try to find things that I didn't wear often so that she could donate to these families. And I just felt really proud because she really reminded me of Tarzan's mom in that she took these students under her wing as if they were her own and wanted to have the most positive impact on their future. This movie also made me feel helpless. I felt helpless when In one scene, Tarzan regretfully allows a group of explorers into the jungle, and they end up opening fire on his family of gorillas. I felt helpless because this reminded me of a time when my parents were fighting, and I felt like it was all my fault. When I was younger, I let my dad in on some information that he could use against my mom amid an already hostile divorce. One day, he showed up at my house unexpectedly and confronted my mom, and that's when the chaos began. I remember sitting on my roof, and I was barefoot, and I had my arms wrapped around my knees, and I could hear my parents fighting in the kitchen below me, and I just felt so powerless. And I remember hearing sirens, and I thought that that just added to the drama of the moment until I realized that those sirens were cop cars and that those cop cars were headed up my driveway. Even though nothing violent or significant happened that night and everything ended up blowing over in the long run, in that moment I could totally relate to Tarzan because I was stuck in the middle of two people that I trusted and I felt like it was all my fault that they were fighting. The third way that this movie made me feel is inspired. I felt inspired when I watched Tarzan learn how to communicate with humans after being raised as a gorilla. This reminded me of how I feel every time I go and visit my boyfriend who lives in Costa Rica. Every time I go there, I find myself wanting so badly to be a part of their culture and to be able to understand and speak the language so that I can form connections with his family and friends. It's often so frustrating when I want to say something but don't know how, or want to be a part of the conversation but don't know how to talk. So I really related this experience to Tarzan because he is trying so hard to form these connections with Jane, and it really reminded me that communication is so much more than just language. It's so much more about the way we interact in terms of body language, facial expressions, tone of voice, and just the ability to share certain moments together. Even at the end, when Tarzan's still speaking broken English to Jane, he's been able to form this really deep relationship with her. And this made me feel like even though I'm still learning how to speak Spanish, I can form these close relationships with my boyfriend's family. In summary, I told you how Tarzan has made me feel proud, has made me feel helpless, and has made me feel inspired. I hope that my 3 stories have made you realize that kids' films can be just as powerful and emotional as any adult film. And I know because over my many years of babysitting, I've watched these movies over and over again, and even at age 18, I can still find different emotional reactions.
Thank you. 504.
So I really like...
Start with your name,
oh, sorry.
please.
I'm Angelica.
Hi, Angelica.
I really like your enthusiasm and energy. It really shined through your speech. You were very captivating and really likable. And then you also had a pretty good pace. It was like smooth transitions, but it was still really good. And I think you're a really good speaker.
Thank you.
Yeah, improvement.
I just got back.
Improvement.
Hi, I'm Pauline.
Hi, Pauline.
I really liked it too. I thought it was you conveyed emotion really well. And I really felt for you and talked about your parents and stuff. So I know I should be talking about bad things, but it's kind of hard. Maybe you could speak a little more to the remoted parts of the room. Maybe I'll say that.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, a little more movement. Yes, let's talk about your speech. You seemed a little defensive. I don't think you had to be about doing a Disney movie, but it was fine. They're perfectly defensible. But you made your defense and segued into a Richard Corliss quote, which you agreed with. So that was a good beginning and a good setup. Your first emotion was proud, and you stumbled a bit on proud, but you got through it. You talked about being proud of your mother as a special ed teacher and giving away your clothes to students that had a greater need for them than you did. And just remember to return to, and that's why I'm proud of my mother, return to the emotion you're communicating so it really gets locked in. On your second emotion, helpless, that was your best story where you took sides and gave your dad ammunition against your mother and then went on the roof and let the fallout come and let the police come and watch, the sparks fly. That was, I felt we were there and your audience was there. It was good storytelling. So, the only thing, again, I would say is just return to that emotion of I got the feeling, though, that you felt very helpless. On your third emotion of inspired, here I got a little confused until finally the very end when you went through what you went through, and I finally got to the idea that you were inspired because even though your Spanish is halting, you still, through nonverbal and through sheer effort, you're still able to form a bond and communicate. And that's why you're inspired. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. Your summary, your conclusion, and tie back were all fine. You said you wanted to make eye contact with the whole room, connect with the audience on an emotional level, and fill the room with your voice. How'd it go?
I think I did better because last time I just looked here.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot to move.
Yeah. And Cass, I suggest when you practice, you move so that it's part of your repertoire, because you're not going to always remember to move if you don't move in practice. The filling the room with the voice was better done, and the fluency will come. You won't stumble if you just a touch more practice, and you'll be fine. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to somebody, Altaranio, no? Gutierrez, no? Did they drop? Okay, good. All right, Malika. Sorry, Malika. Close enough for government work, huh?
And that's your assignment sheet.
Okay, good.
We saw the other roll sheet anywhere. Oh, it was your, or the one.
Who'd we lose here? Sojan?
I think she needs
Julia Wood.
I think she needs it.
She's here. She just didn't fill that one. I just didn't.
Do you want me to pass it to her?
Okay. We're rolling.
Okay.
Okay, she's reading.
She's signing her name.
She's writing.
Everyone you meet has a story that you know nothing about. This was one of the first lessons that my mother taught me and has acted as one of the guiding principles of my life since then. The movie I'm going to tell you about today showed me that life is hard. Life is exhausting. Life is exhilarating. It's brilliant, and it's spectacular. Entertainment Weekly said that Spectacular Now is an authentic, sometimes distressingly so coming-of-age movie, and I couldn't agree more. This movie showed me that everyone has a story that we need to think about, but we should not let that story define us. This movie is real, it's raw, and it's powerful, and it moved me in 3 very important ways. It made me nostalgic, it made me contemplative, and it made me hopeful. The first way this movie moved me is it made me nostalgic. The main protagonist, Sutter Keeley, took me straight back to high school and to that one guy who just made everything better. You know who I'm talking about. Every school has one. He was the life of the party. He made everyone smile, and he could charm the pants off anyone, from students to the teachers. But I doubt your school's guy suffered from depression, that he had insomnia and was tired to come to school the next day because he spent the whole night just sitting and thinking about life. I desperately wanted to be able to help my friend, but he didn't want people to know because he didn't want to be thought of as that depressed guy. He was trying so hard to take someone else's frown and turn it upside down that people just forgot that he had his own demons to fight. There's a scene in the movie where the main protagonist, Sutter Healy, tells his girlfriend, Amy, that everyone's got a thing, to which he replies, I like to think that there's more to a person than just one thing. This scene takes me back to a conversation I had with my friend where I convinced him that trying to hide his depression was actually just letting it take control of his life. He went to a doctor, and now he's studying at NYU, and the only reason he stays up all night is because he's finishing his philosophy essay. The second way, so this movie showed me that everyone has a story, and we'll see it if we just care to look. The second way in which this movie moved me is it made me contemplative. It made me think about life. Since I got here, I've been trying so hard to be involved on campus. Every time I think about all the money that my family's spending to send me here, and that every moment here is time away from my family and my loved ones. I spent all of last year just trying to be involved in more clubs, to keep my grades up. And I was running around and I was exhausting myself, and the weeks were just flying by, and I decided I could not take it anymore. I was talking to my dad on the phone, and I started crying because I was so exhausted. And he told me that the only thing I had to worry about right now was being happy. There's going to be a time to pay the bills and to work 12-hour days, but this is not it. He told me to not sit and plan for the future when I should be concentrating on living in the moment and enjoying all this California sunshine. This movie made me contemplate life because I realized that we spend so much of our time right now planning for the future and trying to make that next moment count. So this movie made me think about everything that I've been doing this year and helped me find a way to just live in the now and be happy. There's a scene in the movie where Sutter's talking to his teacher and he says, I don't see what's so great about being an adult. Are you happy? And this line just connects with my life, and I realized that the most important thing for me to do right now was to be happy. The third way in which this movie moved me is it made me hopeful. There's a line right at the end of the movie which says, the best thing about now is that there's another one tomorrow. And this line just gets me every single time, because when I came to college, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. The answer, princess, just didn't cut it anymore. I've spent so much time just trying to think of what I want to do ahead, about how I want my life to go, and I realized that it's okay if I don't know right now, but it's all the small moments and experiences in our life that really show us and help us make that decision when the time comes. So to conclude, I've told you how this movie moved me in 3 ways. It made me nostalgic, it made me contemplative, and it made me hopeful. I like to think that no matter how many times life knocks you down, you have it in yourself to stand back up. I like to believe that while everyone has a story, we should neither trivialize the story, nor let it define us for life. So what I learned from this movie is that life is what you make it. So let's not just make it great, let's make it spectacular. Thank you.
Thank you. 5:02. Thank you for respectfully waiting outside. Okay, we're somewhere back here.
Hi, I'm Trenton.
Hi, Trenton.
Okay, so I really liked your speech, and I liked your tone of voice and how you looked around the room and you made sure to make eye contact. You did your 3 movements very well, and at the same time, I liked what you talked about too. You talked about your friend, which was really nice, and then you talked about your own family and your own experiences here. And overall, I think it was a very good.
Thank you, Trenton.
Hi, I'm Trish.
Hi, Trish.
So I liked your speech. I thought that your voice was perfectly fine. I thought you did well with your movement. I don't know. I don't really have a criticism because I thought that you were it flowed very well, and I thought that you got very to the point with your your beginning and your end. You were talking about how your movie was spectacular.
Okay. let's talk about this speech. You started and ended with everyone has a story in a battle, and your mother told you this, and you got back to that, and that's a good thing to remember. And it seemed to work in this speech and be appropriate for the theme of the movie too, as well. So that worked nicely. I think you could have emphasized the name of the speech a little better, so people knew exactly what the name of the movie was, so people knew what you were talking about. Let's, though, talk about your emotions. You said your first emotion was nostalgic, although it was unclear to me. That's a tricky one to communicate. Nostalgic, and you talked about your friend and at NYU and getting through a paper and getting through a night and helping him and that sort of thing. I didn't really get the nostalgia of it, but I got the story, but I didn't get the nostalgia emotion. But okay, on the contemplative one, you talked about. I thought this was your best example. You talked about running around like a chicken with your head cut off, trying to, have the rich college experience, joining every club and doing everything possible and having a rich college experience, and then talking to your father who said, take a chill pill and live in the now and, forget it. And there's plenty of time to get frenzied in life and so forth, which is pretty good advice. And so I think that that contemplative, that's again a very sophisticated and tricky emotion. It's not quite like anger, but you did get that story and emotion communicated, and that was pretty good. Again, on hopeful, I would have liked you to have returned to your emotion of hopeful in the end of your story, and you talked about life knocking you and getting you back up. It was the way Steve Jobs talked about in our beginning. You'll recall he said life's going to hit you with a brick, and then you have to decide whether you're going to get back up or not and walk on. So we all get hit with bricks, so that was pretty good. Your summary, your conclusion, and tieback were fine. I didn't see. Are your goals somewhere else, or are they on the back of your? There they are. Okay, good. Word economy. Modulate your voice, make it more interactive, and hold attention, and move around the room while speaking. How'd that all go?
I think word economy is fine. I don't think I went
No.
over time.
No, you didn't.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think with modulating my voice, I tried to just make it
Keep it
rhetorical
interesting.
questions so
Yeah.
that I could hold the attention.
Good.
And then I tried to move around the room. So.
Yeah. Yeah. How is it from the camera perspective? How I noticed you were adjusting it quite often. What was the issue with the movement?
It was
with
just
the camera?
at the end. It was kind of like she moved backwards more, so I just had to zoom it in.
Zoom it in more. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So you did a nice job. Thank you.
So you said at the end of these, I might get a chance to make it.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, so just
Maybe not today. My 2 o'clock class is ready to shoot me because it's a long walk and I'm late every day. So I'm going to try to end early today, but we'll get to it.
awesome. I just want to make
We'll
sure.
work it. I haven't forgotten you. Yeah. Okay. All right. That brings us to Si Yun Lin. Si Yun Lin? Si Yun Lin? No. They dropped. Okay, good. That brings us to Trenton. Great. Okay, Trenton. My battery's running down. Rock and roll.
No, it's okay. I like this movie too.
Okay, he's managing attention, communicating respect non-verbally, finding friendly eyes near the front and the center. Say your name, feel the love. Start your speech. You're cutting his head off a little. Yeah.
Okay. So, freshman year of high school. Who here hears that and cringes at the thought of it? Because I know I do. There's just something about that period of time where you're transitioning from middle school to high school where it's just so awkward. Today I'd like to share with you a movie that really moved me, The Perks of Being a Wallflower. It made me feel confused, it made me feel euphoric, and it made me feel melancholic. Now, for those of you who haven't seen it, the plot follows socially awkward freshman Charlie as he's taken in by a group of seniors and taken through a journey through socialization. Critic Violet Ucla states that, for better or worse, Perks makes you feel like a teenager again. And I have to completely agree, because not only does it bring you back, but it makes you experience and connect to both the good and the bad. Now, for my first story, the film made me feel confused. One of the things that happens during the film is that Charlie comes home and he stumbles upon his sister and her boyfriend during an argument. The argument ends not too well when the boyfriend hits the sister. Charlie tries to intervene, but his sister stops him and says, "No, I have this." The conclusion of the argument is that the couple stays together, and this leaves Charlie very confused as to why his sister would allow it. Now, during high school, I also went through a similar situation with a friend of mine who was in a healthy relationship. In her case, though, her boyfriend constantly cheated on her, and she knew about it. And I used to talk to her about it, and we would go back and forth, and I would ask her, "Why would you stay with him?" And she said that even though he's hurting me, I still love him. Now, this also left me confused. I didn't know why she would do that, but she did. Eventually, the two did break up after 2 years, but I was still confused. The movie actually poignantly answers my question, though, of why, by saying we accept the love we think we deserve. Now, for my the next way the film moved me is it made me feel very euphoric. Now, during one of the scenes, Charlie goes to a school dance, and at first he's sitting awkwardly at a wall and he's just watching, but then he finds his friends, and they're doing their living room dance routine, where they basically, a song comes on and they do this crazy dance, and they don't care who's watching. They just dance their hearts out. And Charlie joins them, and he has the time of his life. He's laughing, he's smiling, and he's having so much fun. This reminds me of actually my last school dance that I went to, senior ball. I also went with a really good group of friends, and we hit the dance floor pretty hard. You know, we did some crazy moves, we had a lot of fun, and it even got to the point where we attracted the attention of our AP Gov teacher, who was the chaperone, and she jumped in our circle and she even tried to twerk. Which was interesting because she's like 56. But like, it was, I just remember that night, and I just remember the euphoria I was in, how much fun it was, and how amazing that night was. And and seeing Charlie in that scene just brought that all back. Now, the next emotion that I felt when watching the movie was melancholic. One of the subplots of the film is this secret relationship between Alt Senior Patrick and the closeted football jock Brad. They're basically dating, but the relationship's secret because Brad doesn't want to come out, especially to his father, because he's afraid. And at first, Patrick's okay with this. I mean, it makes him sad, but the fact that he gets to be with Brad is what makes him happy. Now, I also went through a similar situation like this in high school. In my junior year, I was dating this boy named Kieran, and even though he was out, he wasn't allowed to date because of his very religious household back home. His family was extremely Catholic, and his identical twin brother, was homophobic. So when we dated, we couldn't really tell anyone. And when you think of relationships in high school, you think of like holding hands, walking down the hall, just talking, being able to hang out with each other. we couldn't do this because his family couldn't find out. We went so far as to even like watch how often we spent time together, and I even was scolded on how often I liked something of his on Facebook. It wasn't good, and though I was happy, there was also this constant sadness. And I kind of felt that in the same way how Patrick felt that. Now, just like Patrick and Brad in the film, Kieran and I were found out by his family, and so things had to end. And though it was sad, it was probably better because at least I could be happy now. Okay, so in summary, I've shown you how Perks of Being a Wallflower has moved me. Unlike many coming-of-age films with teenagers, this one doesn't really focus on that cliche aspect. It goes more into the problems of not just the main character, but everyone around him. And it tackles a lot of tough issues. Now, the movie made me feel confused because of unhealthy relationships. It made me feel euphoric because of having fun with your friends and dancing at school dances. And then it made me feel melancholic about my own experiences with an unhealthy relationship. And just like the critic Violet Lucas stated, for better or worse, Perks will make you feel like a teenager again.
Thank you. Okay, 6:20. Thank you for respectfully waiting outside. Okay, where are we?
I'm Maria.
Hi, Maria.
And I thought it was really good. I really liked all your examples. They were like really on point with the movie. And you like gave like just enough detail that we could like visualize it. So I thought it was a really good speech.
Hi, I'm Tess.
Hi, Tess.
I also thought it was really good, and I was really engaged in every story. I think maybe just for next time, the last thing you say at the end of each story, just because I was like so engaged, and then you kind of just like ended it. But maybe just saying like one strong statement at the end to just like solidify your point.
Yeah, on that point, a moral to the story, a return to the word, the emotion to break it, to bring us back. Very powerful speech. Let me suggest where you could have, you were a little bit long in your intro, and you didn't need really the plot summary. But the first story you told about being confused about the story of the fella hitting and the fella cheating, and you were just confused because in my universe, these things don't go on, but they do go on in the world. And so I got your confusion, and so that emotion was well communicated. You used the word euphoric. You used big words for emotions, and I'm wondering about that. And sometimes I think simpler words would do it. I think, for example, instead of melancholy, just sad, on the third one. But I did get your feeling of euphoria, to use your rhetoric, with your AP teacher jumping in and twerking, as you put it, in the center of the ring. What?
She could actually do it too. That was the funny part.
Well, good for her. And then I thought your strongest story, which I was very moved by, was your story of the gay football player, and then your own circumstances with the twin and so forth, and getting caught and ending the relationship. It was very powerfully told and well told. So that was good. We just need to work on word economy and have sort of benchmarks of where you want to be. And your summary of conclusion, tieback, were fine. Word economy, timing, incorporate personality more, and fluctuate your tone more. How'd it go?
I feel like with word economy, though, it still went over. I'm doing a lot better than I did with my respect speech.
Yeah.
It was way too long.
Yeah.
With the incorporating personality more. I feel like I was a little more comfortable up here.
Yeah.
I wasn't as nervous as last
Yeah,
week,
well,
so.
you were authentic, I thought, so that was good. The tone still could work on some fluctuation more. Are you timing these speeches when you practice?
I timed this one, but then I edited it last minute, so
Yeah.
I think I didn't account for that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you need to edit time and put benchmarks in where you need to be, so you really don't go over. Because it's a pity to lose 5 points for nothing on a great speech. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to who's me? Yeah. Who's me? I got Shabby. Okay, good. Yeah, okay, good. How you doing?
Pretty good.
That's good.
My thing was here, and then I didn't disable just the first page. I just printed out the whole article, but that's okay. Just to clarify, when you hold up like 3, does that mean 3 minutes left, or
3
at
minutes
3
left.
minutes?
3 minutes left. Yeah. Okay, she's standing before you, trying to manage your attention, communicating respect non-verbally, finding friendly eyes near the front and the center. Say your name. Feel the love. Start your speech.
Hi, everybody. I'm Shabby.
Hi, Shabby.
Hi. So Mark Hamill, who is famous for playing Luke Skywalker in the first 3 Star Wars movies, and also for doing the voice of the Joker on various Batman cartoons and video games, once said that when someone says comic book in America, people usually think of Mickey Mouse or Archie. It has a connotation of juvenile. And while I think that what he's saying might be true in some respects, I think that one movie series went a long way in changing people's opinions on that. And the series I'm talking about is Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. So today I'm going to be talking about how the third and final film in the trilogy, The Dark Knight Rises, moved me. It moved me in 3 ways. It made me feel empowered, it made me feel anxious, and it made me feel nostalgic. So LA Times film critic Kenneth Turan said that, in his review of the film, said that the impressive success of The Dark Knight Rises pleasantly confounds our notions of where great filmmaking is to be found in today's world. I could not agree more, and I think that the movie itself proved that superhero action films can not only be great box office successes, but can also make their themes universal, so make them relatable to everybody from adults to kids, and they bring in a huge audience. So the first way that the film moved me was that it made me feel empowered. The instance in the movie that made me feel empowered was when Selena Kyle, or Catwoman, who's played by Anne Hathaway in the movie, dresses up as like an innocent and naive maid at the beginning and sneaks into Bruce Wayne's mansion to try and steal a string of pearls as well as his fingerprints. She actually gets caught by Bruce Wayne himself, and she ends up kind of like transforming into her like more confident Catwoman persona, and she just totally takes him down super easily and gets away with all her stuff. The reason that this made me feel empowered was that it actually reminded me of in 5th grade when we had to take the pacer in gym class. Now, for those of you who don't know, the pacer is this like timed running test where you have to like run from line to line in like a time limit, and then the time limit gets shorter and shorter as you go on. So I'm not a great runner, and I wasn't in 5th grade either, but I was really motivated to do well because this kid named Riley Larson in our class said that girls can't be boys at the pacer. So it was difficult, I was winded, I was tired, and I really wanted to kill the lady who was telling us to run faster on the CD. But I held out longer than any of the other girls, and I beat Riley, so I felt really empowered. And I felt that same sense of empowerment when, like, Catwoman takes out Bruce Wayne. The second way that this film really moved me was that it made me feel really anxious. And the instance in the movie that made me feel really anxious was when Batman's trying to get the atom bomb out of Gotham before it blows up the city. And I felt really anxious because it reminded me of all the times I took the ACT in high school. Now, I am a horrible person when it comes to time tests and time things in general. And so taking the ACT 4 times like I did was like my own personal hell. And it was awful. I was rushing through it the whole time, and I was just trying to get it done regardless of my scores. And because of that, I knew I didn't do as well as I could have. And basically every time I saw Batman struggling to get the bomb out, I felt that same anxiousness coming over me again. And I was taken back to 4 years ago, or however long ago it was, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. The third way that the film really moved me was that it made me feel nostalgic. There wasn't a specific instance in the film that made me feel nostalgic, but just seeing all of my favorite characters up on screen like that really reminded me of all those Saturday mornings when me and my younger brother would get up early to watch cartoons on TV. Our favorites were always the superhero ones like Batman Beyond and like Justice League, and afterwards we would like reenact all of our favorite scenes. And I was always Catwoman, and my brother was always the Joker, which is kind of weird actually, now that I think about it. But we had a lot of fun, and just seeing them up there again really took me back to those Sunday mornings and those feelings of nostalgia. So in conclusion, or in summary, the movie The Dark Knight Rises moved me in 3 ways. It made me feel empowered, it made me feel anxious, and it made me feel nostalgic. I think that Kenneth Turan, what he said in his review is absolutely correct. It did amazing things in a genre where it's very easy to do a stereotypical superficial movie. And although Mark Hamill may have thought he was speaking the truth, I think that The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises proved him wrong. It's not a juvenile film, it's for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. 509. It's somewhere here.
Hi, I'm Isabel.
Hi, Isabel.
Your presence was really, really good. You have a strong voice, but it doesn't seem like you're trying to speak loud. It just comes naturally to you. And I think that you tied everything together really well and really seamlessly, where it was so clear each time you transitioned. So really nice job.
Thank you, Isabel.
Hi, my name's Brianda.
Hi, Brianda.
Hi, I definitely agree that you were a super lively speaker, and you had, I could tell that you were very passionate about what you were saying, and you really love this movie. I think the only thing that you could probably improve on was, like Professor Miller has said, just trying to benchmark where you're at, because I was super into it, and I could have like listened for 10 minutes, but I saw that when, you know, the 2-minute sign came up, you kind of felt like you had to rush through it. So I would say that with a little bit more practice and timing.
Okay, good. Well, let's talk about your speech. You started with Mark Hamill and basically refuted what he had to say in the end, and I shouldn't be so familiar, Kenneth Turan quote from the LA Times, which I thought I agreed with his assessment of the movie, and it was correct in my judgment. And and you agreed too. Your intro went 124, however, a little long for an intro. So, and I wasn't sure if you were still holding your audience interest with all that in there. So think about that. You want to still be a grabber and still be teasing your audience and let them know some great stuff's about to come. Let's talk about, though, the important parts, which is the emotions that you were going to communicate. You talked about being empowered, and you mentioned Anne Hathaway and so forth, and she beat up the fella and so forth. And you analogized this to the 5th grade when you were running the pacer in gym class and you beat out, I forgot, Riley Martin, was it? No, Riley Larson. Riley Larson. And you, to this day, you still remember beating him out, and you felt very empowered. And I would have liked you to have returned to that word emotion at the end of it and stress that and just say how good you felt at that. That was a good story, though, you told. That went well. Your second emotion about being anxious, I got it. I think you could have done a better job. I think you left it implicit to us. The fact that you had to take the ACT 4 times tells us something that you were clearly anxious about test taking. Some more words about what happens to you when you go to take time tests and build it up, and my heart races and I freak out and my mind freezes and stuff to make it into a story, to make it a drama and show that it's interesting, would have more communicated the anxiety, which is the emotion you were trying to communicate. On nostalgic, yeah, I got it. It was good. You got a good laugh from your audience about, the cartoons with the brothers and so forth. The summary, the conclusion, and tieback were all fine. You used all your time perfectly. That was good. You wanted to have word economy, to move 3 times, and to slow down. How'd it go?
I think word economy-wise, it was better.
Yeah.
Generally than my first time, and I did move 3 times, which was good.
Yeah.
The slowing down thing, didn't really go as planned, but
Yeah, and part of word economy and editing will give you the luxury to slow down and be able to especially slow down when you're telling your stories. You can speed up a little in the plot summary parts and slow down when you're telling your story about the pacer and the beating the kid and that sort of thing, and then, have it varied that way. But overall, you did a nice job. Thank you.
We're at 106. Just so that.
Yeah, okay. It looks like we got about half a battery life yet for some crazy reason, so that's good. Okay. Are you next on my list?
Yes, I am next.
You're Julia?
Yeah.
Julia Wood?
Yes.
Perfect. Uh-oh, she's fat. She's managing attention, she's texting, finding friendly eyes near the front and the center, saying your name, feel the love. Start your speech.
Hi everyone, I'm Julia.
Hi Julia.
So when I was preparing to see this movie 6 years ago, I think the only thing that I could think about was how hot Brad Pitt was going to be as the lead role in the film. I was pretty young at the time, so I wasn't expecting to feel anything deep while watching the movie, to say the least. But to my surprise, I was completely wrong. Today, I want to talk about a movie that moved me, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. It moved me in 3 ways. It made me sad, it made me inspired, and it made me relieved. Film critic Amy Taubin of the Film Society of Lincoln Center stated that The Curious Case of Benjamin Button's melancholy evocation of the transience of beauty and the pathos of mortality is truly a vision beyond compare. And I honestly could not agree more. Benjamin Button is born with the rare condition in which he ages backwards, being born really old but growing younger as time goes on. Even though all living things, including us, face the inevitable fate of death, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button teaches us how important it is to enjoy every moment and to follow your heart when it truly matters most. The first way that this film moved me was that it made me feel sad. The incident in the film that made me feel sad is when Ben is talking with his boss, Mike. Mike lets him know that throughout his entire life, all he ever wanted to be was an artist. But his father told him that he couldn't be an artist because he had to take over the family business and being a sailorman. This makes me sad because it reminds me of my mom. I truly feel like my mom is living a life filled with complete regret. She's an intensive care nurse, which is a super respectable position, but I can't help but to feel like she's really unhappy. My father was the first and the only man that she's ever been with, and she met him shortly after she moved to the United States. So she thought the most conventional thing to do was to get married and to start a family, and she didn't think pursuing her dreams and going to medical school was practical at all. And this makes me really sad because I hate feeling like someone I love so much is unfulfilled with their life. It's also really strange because she's so encouraging in everything I do, but I can't help but to feel guilty that I have this second chance that she wishes she had. Every time I tell her that I'm stressed about something, her usual response is it's not even that big of a deal, you have a second chance, you should be happy. And regret really does resonate with everything she says. And I even feel like nowadays it's had an effect on me where I can't tell whether I'm trying hard in school because I'm motivated and because I want to, or because I'm terrified that one day I will look back on my college experience and regret not trying my best. And I wish you would just realize that it really never is too late. The second way that the film moved me is that it made me really inspired. In the film, Ben has an affair with a younger woman named Elizabeth. Now, at the time, Elizabeth tells Ben that she's so regretful because the first time she tried to swim across the English Channel, she couldn't do it. But the inspiring part was when Ben later on finds out that at 60 years old, she successfully completes her swim across the English Channel. This is really inspiring to me because it reminds me of my sister Lauren, who dropped out of New York University last year to become a famous musician. I think it takes so much strength and courage to actually follow your heart and do what you've always wanted to do. Now, dropping out of school is not a commendable act at all, as we all know, but I feel like people wait too long to chase their dreams because they feel obligated to go through the conventional notions of going to school and getting married first. And I'm totally a victim of this mindset as well. I feel like for the past 8 years, I've been so consumed in being a good student that I don't really even know what I'm passionate about. And sometimes I feel like if we all just took a moment and thought about what we wanted to do in this instant and stopped what we were doing and did what we actually wanted, we would be a lot happier. I think it's really inspiring to know that people like Elizabeth and my sister are out there and they exist and they're not afraid to break conventions to do what they love. And it gives me hope that when I do find out what I'm passionate about, I won't be afraid to just go for it. The third way that the film moved me was that it made me feel relieved. The incident in the film that made me feel relieved is when Ben is talking to his friend, and his friend is giving him advice on how to cope with death. She says that sometimes we need to lose the people we love in order to realize how important they are. 2 years ago, I lost my grandfather to liver cancer, and I was so devastated then as I am now. The circumstances in which he passed really sucked, but I do feel that every bad moment really does have a silver lining. It gives me great comfort knowing that I was lucky enough to know someone that I cared about so much and was lucky enough to experience a love so strong that I was sad about it. Think about if we went our entire lives never crying or caring at all when someone passed away. I think that would be the true tragedy because that would mean that we never experienced love in any way. I think it's a beautiful thing to care about someone so much that you're devastated when they pass. And it gives me a great sense of relief knowing that the only reason why I'm still so sad about my grandfather is because I was lucky enough to have known someone who left an indelible mark on my life. In summary, I have told you 3 ways that the curious case of Benjamin Button moved me. It made me feel sad because it reminded me of my mother's regret. It made me inspired because it reminded me of my sister breaking conventions in order to follow her dreams. And it made me relieved in realizing that life is truly a beautiful thing. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button teaches us that it's important to accept that life lies on a linear time continuum, starting at birth and ending at death. And the best thing that we can do as people is embrace every moment in between. I think there should be no doubt in this room that the film really moved me, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, and as film critic Amy Taubin says, the film really does convey a vision beyond compare.
Thank you. 5:53. Somewhere over here.
Hello, I'm Arzu.
Hi, Arzu.
You have a very regal presence, and that you do a good job moving a room. And I think your stories were very captivating, and that's what kept everyone so engaged. Thank you.
Well put.
I'm Zoe.
Hi, Zoe.
I thought your speech was really good, and your story was really engaging. Maybe just a little less hand movements, because I think they can be distracting.
Yep.
Okay, good. And you can watch for that tonight when you see yourself. You started off with sexy Brad Pitt, and you thought you were just going to have a experience on that level, and you were pleasantly surprised to be tricked into seeing a fairly profound movie. And so that was kind of an interesting misdirection and a kind of a clever way to start your film. Sad, inspired, and relieved was what you did. what you chose to preview, and you had a nice quote from your critic, which you agreed with. That took a minute of your time. On your first emotion of sad, I think that you could have had the plot summary a little shorter. We could have picked up some time there. I was very moved by your story. Your mother was a nurse but wanted to be a surgeon, and you always feel that when you're talking to her and she's talking to you that you can't tell whether she's talking about that or talking about something else. And that got communicated. It was a touch long but well detailed, and we really got the thing. Again, remember to keep your eye on the prize. I'm communicating sadness, and so return to that at the end and say, and so in talking to my mother and being here at school, I sometimes get sad about all this, you know. Your second story on being inspired, you talked about the English Channel swim, and then you talked about, was it your sister that dropped out of NYU to become, as you put it, a famous musician, although I think she'll settle for being a musician at this point. I think that what I didn't get out of this was you were supposed to be saying that you were inspired, and so I guess you're inspired by people like her as living models that step off of the whatever you want to call it, that everyone else, the treadmill that everyone else seems to be on, and take a different path. So I got your inspiration for being inspired by people that go for it and step off the treadmill. Unrelieved, your third story about your grandfather. It was good. It was a little too long, and I think when you saw that you were getting your time signals that you're running out of time, I would have really capped up your summary, your conclusion, and tie back and made it a lot shorter so you could have been in time. But let me end on a positive note. I agree with the first comment. You're very comfortable in your skin. You're a regal speaker. You're a very likable speaker. You had very good, important things to say. You just were a little long in saying them.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll edit it. We'll give it one more person. Okay, that brings us to Nicole.
I don't have a stapler, but
I'll buy you one. They're expensive, huh?
Is this good? Okay, so I want to start off by talking about family. We have our biological family who are blood related to, but we also have the family we get to pick, the people who we're not necessarily related to, but who we know will be there for us through anything, and we would be there for them in return. And we would be there for them through any hardship or conflicts they encounter. And a film that I think really embodies this kind of sense of family is The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. It really moved me, and it made me feel nostalgic, it made me feel frustrated, and it made me feel sad. As critic J.P. Minglin says, sisterhood is charming and uplifting, but if you don't keep the Kleenex handy, you're a goner. And I would definitely agree with this because I spent a large amount of time crying while watching this. So the first way this film moved me was it made me feel nostalgic because when I was in high school, I had a really tight-knit group of friends, just like Carmen, Tibby, Bridget, and Lena did in the movie. And in the movie, right before they're all about to go their separate ways for the first time in the summer, they sit in the place where their friendship was quite literally birthed because their parents went to a prenatal class there. And they just sit there and talk and kind of reminisce over this, like their past years together and what they're going to do for the summer. And this reminded me of when me and my friends all got together before we went off to college. Not me, because our school year starts really late, but we all hung out and just kind of planned and like reminisced on our friendship and like just everything, and it made me feel really nostalgic, reminding me of my friendships. The next way this film made me feel was, it made me feel frustrated. When Carmen is with her dad for the summer, she gets in a fight with him and calls her mom to talk to her about it. But her mom, being as her parents are divorced, her mom doesn't necessarily support Carmen right away. She just starts saying things like, I knew he was going to do this, you shouldn't have gone with him, blah, blah, blah. And then Carmen just says, you know what, Mom, it's fine, I'll deal with it, and then hangs up the phone. And this made me feel really frustrated because my parents are divorced as well. And I remember the first time I got in a fight with my dad, I wanted to talk to my mom about it. And when I did, she just kind of said things like, I know he's just like this, like you just have to deal with it, this is who he is, blah, blah, blah. And it just made me feel really uncomfortable because it felt like she was attacking him, and I know that I love him, but she doesn't, so I feel like I had to defend him. So rather than feeling comforted by her, I was having to jump in and defend the person who I was angry at in the first place. It was very frustrating to not be able to communicate your emotions with one of your parents because of the rift between them. And watching Carmen have to struggle through this with her parents just reminded me of the frustration that I felt. The third way this film moved me was, it made me feel sad because watching Tibby with her new friend Bailey, Bailey had leukemia and she was in the hospital, and you know she's about to die, and Tibby just had to sit with her on the hospital bed and just be there with her, knowing she's completely powerless to help Bailey or do anything, and she just has to just sit there and she can't do anything. And this made me feel sad because it reminded me of when my grandfather had a brain tumor, and he had to have it operated on his 80th birthday actually. And my whole family, all of us, he has 8 kids, so the entire extended family had all flown down for his birthday. And then he had this cancer, so he had to get it operated on. So we all visited him, and we were in the hospital room with him, and he had just gotten out of surgery. And even though it was just the immediate family, it was still like probably 10 or 12 people, which I'm sure was overwhelming for him. But he couldn't even remember our names, and we all had to stand there and go through our line and say our names again, and it was just really sad because he used to be this smart, kind of imposing guy. He was head of surgery at his hospital, and here he was just kind of reduced down, just in a hospital bed weak, and it's just really sad to watch that and know you're completely powerless to do anything about it. In summary, there should be no doubt in this room that this film has really moved me. It made me feel nostalgic thinking back on my friendships. It made me feel frustrated watching conflicts that you have with your parents and not being able to talk about it. And it made me feel sad being powerless to an illness. And this film just really kind of embodies that the people in your family will be there for you through anything, and they can help you get through these tough times. And that friendship and family and love can really just conquer anything. Thank you.
Thank you. 448. Somewhere over here. Let's go there. No, behind you.
Hi, I'm Joe.
Hi, Joe.
I really liked your speech. I thought you were really fluid and it flowed really well. I thought it got us all engaged in it.
Are your goals somewhere?
Yeah, they're on the back. I haven't opened it, so
Okay.
Hi, I'm Julia.
Hi, Julia.
I just want to say that I like the story about your grandfather. Like, it made me sad, and well, I'll ask you about the conclusion of that later. But no, I'm supposed to provide criticism, right?
Right.
Maybe like I don't know, more enthusiasm. You're so natural, but maybe just like more enthusiasm in your voice. But you just talk kind of like your regular voice is kind of like even level, so it may be harder for you than other people. But,
Yeah, Nicole, let's start with that. Your general persona is just sort of mellow or blasé or something. So, and this assignment in particular, we're trying to communicate emotion. So, you're a little bit at cross purposes. you started with an observation about families and how they work and whether they're going to help you or not, and then you worked your way into your preview and your review, and that was okay. On your first emotion about sadness, I felt that you were going too fast for us to really feel and get the full impact of the nostalgia that you felt of saying goodbye to your high school friends as you were going off to college, as you were in the park. Give the emotion time to sink in. You re-feel it and relive it and let it happen. And edit some if you have to, so that you're not worried about time. You had, you had almost 25 seconds left. You could have slowed a bit, so you could have been okay. On your frustrated, I thought this was your second best emotion that you communicated, and your mother attacking your father was sad, but human. Poignant, really. She probably hates his guts. But it must have sort of confused and frustrated you, and that came through. And so that was good. And so that was kind of a complicated thing to communicate, but you communicated it well. So we got that story, so that was good. On the third story of your grandfather and him being reduced to not knowing people's names and your sadness at seeing him being more vegetative than the former brilliant surgeon that you had known, was your strongest story. Remember to return, and you shifted persons a little bit. Instead of saying, and I always said, it makes you sad, you said, it can make you sad. And so it made me sad. Keep it here, what you're feeling. Your goals were to move 3 times to vary your voice and pitch, and don't use vocal pauses like how'd it go?
Okay, well, I moved 3 times, which was better than last time. I'm not sure how my voice sounded, because I know I do tend to have kind of a monotone voice, so I tried to work on that, but I'm sure I'll see it in the film whether I did that or not.
Right.
And I'm not sure if I was better at that. I'm sure I'll see that when I watch the YouTube video as well.
Well, is it just, are you shy? Is this why you're sort of holding back with when you speak? Is this?
I guess.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, you know what you have to work on. Okay, thank you. Okay, that brings us to our final one for the day. Angelica. Don't call me Angela. Angelica. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna have faith in this camera. She's managing attention, communicating respect, finding friendly eyes near the front. Oh, and her hair's out of her eye. Boy, I'm impressed. Say your name, feel the love, start your speech.
Hi guys, I'm Angelica.
Hi, Angelica.
So, have you guys ever felt something so deep, ever been so passionate about something that you dedicate your whole life to it? In all honesty, I haven't. Maybe I just haven't found it yet. But in this speech, I'd like to talk to you about a man who has felt this passion. His name is Jiro Ono, and he is the protagonist of the documentary Jiro Dreams of Sushi. So this documentary moved me in 3 ways. It made me feel accomplished. It made me feel sad, and it also made me feel a little jealous. So the first way in which this film moved me was that it made me
Feel accomplished.
Yeah, so it made me feel accomplished. So this documentary is about an 80-plus-year-old sushi chef named Jiro who has dedicated his life to finding perfection in sushi. And the name of this film actually comes from an interview in which Jiro says that he goes to sleep dreaming of ways to make his sushi better, dreaming of new combinations, dreaming of just attaining that unattainable level. And so obviously he's a perfectionist, and he demands the same perfection in his apprentices. In one interview, an apprentice confesses that he made this egg dish over 200 times before Jiro finally said that, it was okay. And I could relate to this because in high school I was on the swim team, and I wasn't particularly fast, but I had a goal of swimming the 100-yard butterfly in under a minute and 10 seconds. And throughout the season I got really close to that time a bunch of times, but I never quite made it under. But during my last swim meet, I tried and I really pushed myself, and I finally got that goal. And I was just so happy. And so that feeling of success after so many failures, that's a good emotion. So when the apprentice, said that Jiro finally accepted it, he even cried. I was just like, you go, man, that's awesome. This film also moved me in that it saddened me because Jiro is obviously pretty old, he's over 80, and so he's going to have to retire eventually. And when that happens, the culinary world and the sushi world will truly have lost one of its masters. This reminded me of my high school French teacher, Madame Labar. She's also about to retire, this is her last year of teaching. And Madame Labar was just such an inspirational person. She encouraged me to always do better, continue learning French, continue exploring the world. And she's retiring because fewer and fewer people in my school are taking French, they're taking Spanish or Chinese, and also because she's also at an age to retire. And I was just so sad because I think of all the people that she's touched, like me, and then I realized that once she retires, the future incoming freshmen, whatever, they'll never have that opportunity to experience her guidance and to have her as a role model. And the third way in which this film moved me was that it made me envious, because Jiro is obsessed with finding perfection. So he has a very clear-cut direction. This is sushi. This is what I want to do. This is how I want to live my life. And I was envious because I couldn't quite relate. I don't know what I want to do in life. I don't know where I'm headed. I don't have that really obvious direction that Jiro does. And so, while I'm kind of glad that I'm not obsessed about something, it's nice to have other interests. I can't help but wonder what it would be like to peer into the mind of a master artisan who truly epitomizes his craft and have that kind of dedication. So, in summary, this movie has moved me 3 ways. Made me feel accomplished, made me feel sad, made me feel envious. And in one film review, this critic, Chris Chang, wrote, Jiro is the center of this universe because this documentary really is about him, but the real star of this film is the sushi, because the documentary includes tons of footage of beautiful sushi, like tuna, salmon, all that good stuff. But I would have to disagree, because the star of this film is really Jiro and his story, and his never-ending quest for sushi perfection.
Okay, we're somewhere over there.
Hi, I'm Rachel Leah.
Hi, Rachel Leah.
I thought you did a really nice job. You're a very natural speaker, meaning that your narrations come off very fluid, so it's just easy to listen to, and it makes me much more engaged. And I also liked how you moved around 3 distinct times, and you made eye contact with the entire audience. So nice job.
Improvement.
I'm Lauren.
Hi, Lauren.
I thought you did really well. I would say there was a couple seconds you stumbled remembering your emotion. I think especially just for the introduction, just to have this nailed down and then know exactly what you're going into right after. And I think that would really improve just the fluidity of it.
Yeah.